Thank you guys for watching my YouTube videos. If you like this video, please click on the like button and leave me a comment. Why not go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can stay up to date with all of my videos, and you can click that bell icon. Right, Guido? Here we are, over 50,000 subscribers. Can't even believe it. Can't even believe how much this has grown. For everyone on Patreon, we're going to do a Patreon question and answer, and I'm going to try to keep rambling short. But I just want to say thank you, Patreon. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions. We'll be doing these Q's and A's, I don't know, once a quarter, things like that. And don't worry, YouTube subscribers, there's going to be a Q&A video for you guys coming up that I'm going to ask questions. But we're going to go, basically the breakdown is pretty simple. People got to submit a question they wanted, the reptile they want me to feature in the question, and then the shout out name that they want. So I grabbed as many questions as I could, and we're going to throw it together. And like I said, I'll keep doing these so your questions don't ever get old. I couldn't answer all of them because some have to do with maybe some upcoming videos I'm going to be doing and some spoilers and some secrets, because Patreon gets some things in advance that YouTube doesn't get right away. So if you don't see your question here, that could be the reason. Okay. Alright guys, and I want to mention these questions are not in any particular order, so we'll see how well this goes. So the first question is from Trash Panda. Interesting name. And I'm able to feature whatever reptiles I want, although he does mention Tagus. He or she mentions Tagus, so I got Sweet Tooth, my Argentine black and white Tagu out, and I thought we'd focus on with her. So the question is, bonding with other reptiles versus bonding with humans. How do the different species of reptiles bond? Is the bond emotional, physical, mutual benefits only? What are the different signs of bonding with each reptile? Are certain reptiles more antisocial or more communal than others as a whole, or is it individual based? For example, Tagus burrow and spend a lot of time under the substrate. But do they like spending other time with other Tagus/reptiles or prefer their own company? So this is a pretty good question. Because people need to understand reptile bonding, especially with each other. There definitely are more aggressive species of reptiles. For instance, the Argentine Tagu is known to be really calm compared to the Colombian Tagu, which is known to be a lot more feisty and a lot more crazy. But most of the time, guys, to be honest, reptiles are just kind of tolerating each other. They're just choosing not to kill each other. Maybe they ignore each other. Their bonding with other reptiles most of the time is just, it's really just mutual benefits. It's really just to breed. Males typically will fight over dominance and kill each other, so you can't house males together. Sometimes you can house multiple females. Sometimes you can permanently house males with females, although a lot of the time there's just aggression. So even still, you'll put the reptiles together for the breeding time, and then you'll take them away after the breeding. Now, there are some things like turtles, for instance, where you can put, as long as your tank is big enough, and they're not, snapping turtles, you can put female turtles and a male turtle in a tank, and most of the time they'll just coexist and not fight and things like that. But if you do put multiple male turtles in a tank, eventually they'll fight each other for dominance. Now, in terms of bonding with humans, it actually, there is a bond, and they can come and want to be pet and like to be pet and show affection and like to be picked up and hugged. That can happen if you work with your reptile. I like to say there's a couple stages. Like the stage 1, the reptile is super antisocial. It will attack anything that moves, including the human, because reptiles are going to attack for 2 reasons. They're hungry or they're scared to defend themselves. So most of the time they're not going to associate you with food, but they're going to be scared of you and they're going to want to attack you. Level 2 is you can get your reptile to tolerate you, where you can feed it, you can pick it up, and it's fine. It's just dealing with you. It's just there. And then, the final level, you can get it where your reptile, like Simba and other things, like to interact with you. They know that that's positive. They know that they're going to get a treat. They know that they're going to get pet, and they like being pet, or they like being held, or Maybe they just feel safe with you, so they'll like to take a nap on you and things like that. So there are, those couple stages. And like I said, it can really be achieved with just about any reptile. But there are breeds, like I said, that are just more want to kill you all the time. All right, next question. Oh, come on. Don't jump off the table now. We don't need any suicides to try to happen. Oh, come on. So we had to prevent a suicide, but we do have a shedding blue tongue skink here. All right, there you go. Take a look at the camera. So this question is from Sacramundi, and he wanted to feature my blue tongue skink, Mr. Bernard. So here he is, and his question is, what type of enrichment do you offer your reptiles once they're healthy enough to allow it? Well, that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked. But they get a ton of enrichment because they all get to come out of their tanks. They all get to be held. They get to chase food on tongs. They get to run around in a baby playpen. They get different substrate in the substrate changing often, so they get new scents. They get to interact with toys when the weather is nice. The ones that can get to come outside, they get nice soaks. Like Simba, for instance, I let him swim around in my bathtub, and I plan on getting him a kiddie pool for the summer when he gets to come out. But it's a plethora of enrichment. But honestly, the number one enrichment is letting them get out of their tank and run or walk around and things like that, because that is the big thing when they really get to move around and get those scents and everything. So great question. Okay, next question. This is from Sarah, and she wanted to see Ariel. And I just want to say, look at this tail. Remember how thin this tail was? Go back, watch her playlist of the blind leopard gecko. She was white, malnourished. You could see through her skin, over 80 layers of stuck shed in her eyes, and a thin tail that was all about this thickness. But now, she's fat, her tail's fat. Look at those eyes. You could just fall in love with those eyes. Hi, baby girl. But Sarah asks, what is your favorite thing to do with your reptiles? Just interact with them, I love because they have different personalities. I love knowing who I can scratch under the chin, who I can roll over and pet, who I can play games with, who I can take outside and freak out the neighbors when I walk them around the block or take them to the park and stuff, or mow the lawn with a big snake on my shoulders, as I'm mowing. So that's just, I like every part about them. Even cleaning the tanks I find interesting because I get to just see their habits and interact with them more. So there's no just one favorite thing. I love spending time with them every single day, just taking care of them, doing the best that I can to make sure they get a great life. Oh boy, here's Tortellini. And she's doing this new thing, guys, where she tries to push things into her water dish and drown them in her tank. Who knows what that's about? But so this next question then comes from Black Powder Selkie. She wanted to see Tortellini, so here she is. And the question is there a specific reptile or pet you've always dreamt of having, but for some reason have not had yet or don't plan to ever get, and why? There is one dream lizard. I've talked about it, which is my dream pet, which is a male black-throated monitor. You guys can look them up. They're like the smartest lizard you can own. Probably a Komodo dragon is smarter, but you can't own that as a pet. They get really big. The males can be 8 feet and just are awesome pets if you take care of them. They require a big enclosure. That's not a problem. I can build one out. The problem is getting the Y. So these guys were imported, I believe, just from Tanzania. And there's this whole drama, and I may not have it all correctly, but the whole world was, importing. They were exporting a lot of native species from there, and some guy stole some birds and he didn't pay for them, so then the ministry shut down the exporting of everything, including the black-throated monitor, which has made them extremely hard to get. In the United States, there's really only one main breeder who you have to get on a wait list for, who I've joined the wait list for, but who knows. And then there's He's the most well-known, but they're expensive. You're going to be at about $2,000, and who knows when you'll get one, because who knows how many eggs will be hatched, how many eggs will be laid, how many will hatch, how many will survive, blah, 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 blah. There's just a whole list of things. And then everyone really wants the males because of the size, and they want a house-petted lizard that you can easily potty train and do. But then, you're just rolling the die. So do you get a female? And then you see that people are always trying to unload their females because they really want to try for the male. So it's that's my dream lizard, my dream pet. But who knows if it will ever happen, unfortunately. All right, this next question is from Julie, and she asks, how many reptiles have you rescued? And she wants to see the fat guy himself, Mongo. Oh God, he heard me say that about him. Here's Mongo. He's doing great. He's just as lazy as ever, in his short, stunted goodness. But how many reptiles have I rescued? Honestly, in terms of rescued come in and out, it moves a lot. So the exact number, I'd have to look, and I don't want to take that time. But I could tell you it's been over 100. Some have stayed. Most get adopted back out. Some, unfortunately, don't make it. So, we try to do what we can, but great question, Julie. Thanks for caring. And since I have Mongo out, I just want to say, doesn't he look great, everyone? He's just so plump and squishy. Okay, the next question is from Chickens Don't Surf, or do they? And she wanted me to get Mr. Psycho himself, Johnny Cage. So here's Mr. Crazy. Here is Mr. Crazy. And her question is, can you tell us about some of the times that your reptiles were clearly trying to communicate something with you, other than the stink eye? That happens all the time, especially with bearded dragons. Sometimes they made an effort because they know you try and understand. Yeah. So there's actually one that constantly happens with Simba. So when he can't go outside because the weather is too cold, he goes to the restroom in his watering dish. Big soaking tub in his tank. You've seen it. It's 3 feet long. It's about 1.5 feet wide. And that's where he also goes to the bathroom. So when he goes to the bathroom in that, he will immediately leave the tub, and he will not soak in the tub when the tub is unclean. He will not lay in his duty. He will not drink the water from his duty. So once he has done that, and it doesn't matter if it's the middle of the night, he starts tapping with his hands on his door to his enclosure. And this all started because he wants to let me know that, hey, it's time to clean the water. It happens every single time like clockwork. Tap, 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 tap. I finally go over there. It's because your water is dirty and you wanted to tell me because now your tank might smell, or maybe you're thirsty, or maybe you want to lay in the water. That happens every time. And Johnny Cage will do that too. He'll tap at his glass when he's gone to the bathroom in his tank for me to change it. That's the biggest type of communication that will happen is between these two guys. But every once in a while, too, you'll have the effect of the chameleons will come to the front of the tank when they're hungry. So I know I'm going to feed them that day when they're adults, and a lot of the other reptiles. But yeah, that tapping on the glass from Johnny Cage and Simba, I would say is the most unique thing that happens. Hi. Take it easy. But yeah, the stink eye also happens just all the time. And while Johnny Cage is out, I'm going to answer this next question because it has to do with a baby Tagu, but I don't want to pull out Sweet Tooth again because she's burrowed, and the Colombian Tagu I'm working really calm with trying to calm down. So, but what is the best way to calm down a baby Tagu? It's the best way to calm down any lizard is just sit by the tank, let it talk so it can hear your voice, and start there. Then sit by the tank with the tank door open. Okay? Make sure it knows you're the one who's feeding it. Maybe when you feed it, you then sit there for just a little bit, so it sees you. And then what I do is I put on, if it's something really crazy, I put on those strong gloves, and I put my hand in the tank. And then closer and closer and closer, and then eventually touch them a little bit. And each time, as soon as they start to move away like they're scared, I just stop. I back off. I don't pursue because I don't want it to be a chase. So I do to their comfort zone. So with the Colombian Tagu, hi, come back here. He used to be scared when I just opened the tank and put my hand and he would run. Then I was able to leave my hand on the edge, then on the basking rock, and every once in a while he'd get up like this and he'd look at me, but then he'd lay back down and he'd become calm, and I'd move it closer, and I move it closer, and Johnny Cage wants to eat me. And then eventually I could rub his foot and things like that, and he wouldn't run away. Now, we're not perfect yet, but I'm starting to be able to pet his leg, and when I touch his back, he gets scared, he freaks out, he jumps like this, and I just back off. So you just go to the comfort zone each time, and you leave before the situation becomes uncomfortable. That way, in their mind, they're left with still a good situation, not an uncomfortable one. Okay, good question. Okay, this next question made me work because I had to fish out all the turtles. We'll go over them briefly. Red ear slider, Casey Jones. He hates being out. He's the only one who will try to bite me all the time. You saw his mouth open in the beginning. Painted turtle, April O'Neil. So kind, so gentle. African side neck, ever smiling Kwame from Africa. Currently, the biggest YouTube star we have, my most watched video, painted turtle, 10 years old, Jubilee. Remember when her shell was peeling? Yeah, over 3 million people have watched her. The matriarch of the tank, 10-year-old red ear slider, Big Bertha. That's her. They're just going to go in there and freak out for a little bit. But let's get at the question. Do you recommend reptile owners have an emergency vet fund? Can you tell us about some incidences where you've had to take a reptile to the vet and what the injury, illness was, treatment, cost, etc.? Well, oh God, poor Kwame's being mounted again. I always recommend, if you have any type of animal, you have a fund for them, because you just don't know when something is going to require it. Bertha, can you not try to stack on people? You might not know this, but you're the biggest. So no, I do recommend you have some type of fund. Normally, reptiles are a little bit cheaper than mammals, you know, if you don't need any crazy surgeries. Guys, can you all take it easy now? Thanks. But an instance where I had to take a reptile to the vet is, well, when I took that... oh, but you guys don't know about that yet. When I had to take Mario, my water dragon, to the vet to get some antibiotics, because when I got her, she had an extreme case of mouth rot and just iodine scrub. It was too far past that point, so I needed to get some oral antibiotics in there to help her beat it. The cost was, where I'm at, it's typically like $50 for the general exam, which that's the biggest, you know, bull crap ever. I'm sorry, but they look at the thing for like they like pick it up like this, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, it does have some mouth rot. And they're like, okay, let's get antibiotics. That'll be, you know, $50 for the general exam. And they did nothing, and I already told them what the problem was. The antibiotics themselves seem to be fairly costly. I was out of there for like $80, so it wasn't bad. And guys, just in all seriousness, with any animal you have, be prepared for vet bills. You just want to make sure you're able to take care of your reptile. So the next question comes from Rissa. I could feature any animal, reptile. I'm putting Archimedes on here because it has to do with the question, but also someone commented on one of my first videos was like, should you buy a bearded dragon? And Archimedes was so small. She was like this big. She was like that big and so thin, like as thin as my finger, and she was so small and curious and walking around, and now she's a big old beast. But Rissa's question is a pretty good question, and a lot of people ask me this actually all the time. But what reptile can solely eat veggies and or fruits, strive on? What are those fruits and veggies? Does it decline their health or affect their behavior? And that's a great question, because sometimes, guys, people don't want to feed meat and rodents. They don't want to feed live insects. It could be a big deal. So you are lucky that you do have some, like bearded dragons, that could eat off veggies solely. You also have iguanas. They could eat. Uromastyx can eat a variety. But then don't forget turtles and tortoises. So turtles will eat tortoise food. What a moron I am. Turtles will eat turtle food. And tortoises will eat, just veggies and hay. And a lot of times, like, what are the foods? Lettuce, darker green lettuces, bell peppers, carrots, things that are loaded with vitamins. And that's perfectly fine for them to eat. A tortoise, tortellini, she just eats veggies. She has hay, and then I give her some tortoise chow. Iguanas, we're going to be eating these. And you have lots of different types of iguanas. So if you want an arboreal iguana, you have, green, red, blue iguanas. But if you want more of a land species, something that's like a puppy dog, you look into a rhino iguana. They get to about the same size, 3 to 4 feet, but they don't really climb. They want ledges and things like that. And you can pet them, and they're very friendly. Look up videos on rhino iguanas. That's my dream iguana is a rhino iguana. So something that, you can give bugs to as well for treats, all these things that I mentioned, but they don't need them. You do want to limit fruits that are high in sugars. Like, most of them will love bananas, but bananas, they're just going to love them because tons of sugars, and they're just going to slam through them, and it's not that healthy for them. But yeah, no negative effect on behavior, Rissa. Those are some ones I'd look into. And iguanas, if you're looking for a 20-year pet that, bonds to you and becomes really calm. I'll never forget my dad's friend had an iguana in his basement in an open tank, so it could go up on a platform where the heat light was, but otherwise it could roam the basement, and he just had it out like a dog, and that was just an awesome experience. So, great question. That's really going to help people who want to know, right? Very good. All right, the next question comes from Heavenly Kira, and she, at the time, guys, I put these questions out, almost 3 weeks ago, and she's like, oh, feature the rescued bearded dragon. Well, now we know her name is Ripley, so we don't need to call her the bearded dragon that's been rescued anymore. We can just call her Ripley, and we can feature her, and she can hang out on my arm here. Very good. All right, let's take a look at the question, shall we? Do you allow rescues to be adopted, or do you end up keeping them so they don't go downhill again? Oh, so I've kind of touched on this before, so it'll be brief, but I do try to rehabilitate as many of these reptiles as possible to allow them to be adopted out to families that I verify can live a good home, because as much as I would love to keep everything, I don't have the space or the money to do it. Every time I add a new reptile and I'm plugging in a 100-watt heating system or a bulb or a heat panel, and I'm just like, there's the electric bill. I already get hit every month with, hi, this is how much the average house uses. This is how much the efficient house uses. Oh, and here's you at 8,000% the electricity, even though I have timers and everything's on energy saving and I have thermostats and, it's expensive. But I do verify. Now, there are some that I get that right away I know I'm going to want to keep, because I know their story will make them a really good animal ambassador when COVID is gone, and I can continue to go and educate schools and communities again. So Tortellini with a foot that's missing. That's just a big thing that we'll point out, and you're going to want to keep her because of that. But good question. I do try to get as many of them adopted out as much as possible, and I'm going to leave Ripley out because we're going to go right into the next question that wants a bearded dragon featured. And why not Ripley, since she's out and she's super curious and we're moving her around and she's friendly and she's probably hungry, but that's fine. So this question is from Evie, and Evie asked, what was it exactly that drew you towards the reptile care as opposed to any other type of animal care? I personally am drawn to the fact that they look like living relics, in parentheses, dinosaurs, But I know many people either find reptiles unnerving to look at and or to touch, or simply don't want to deal with them and their meticulous care routines. So out of all the animals, why reptiles? Honestly, reptiles to me are some of the easiest that you can care for, as long as you get everything set up right, because they, it's not like a dog or a cat that's roaming the house. Your reptile, you kind of put them in their own tank. They have their own ecosystem, and all you have to do is set it up correctly. The unfortunate part is a lot of times those ecosystems aren't set up correctly. And I know you're hungry. I know, baby bird. I could tell by the way you're looking. But unfortunately, it just doesn't happen. And that's the problem. And yes, there are easier to take care reptiles to take care of depending on where you live. So if you live someplace that's more hot and very humid, taking care of like a Chinese water dragon, that needs to be at 85% humidity is a lot easier than if you live in a dry desert area. In Michigan here, in the winter, I have to set up the tanks differently. I adjust the heaters, or I adjust thermostats, or I add a heater when winter comes, because I know that my house is cooler. It's in the summer, the reptile room will sit at the high 70s, low 80s, because it doesn't get AC, and it just sits nice. In the winter, it's naturally colder, and that I keep my thermostat for my house set at 68 degrees. The nice thing is these guys are in their tanks. Their tanks are insulated, and they have heaters. So, but I have to adjust as such. So there are things that need to be done, right? I know you're hungry. What's interesting, guys, is sometimes people point it out with her, and I could tell she's hungry the way she's tracking me. She would eat this. Is they saw her with her mouth open a lot, and they're like, oh, that's a telltale sign she's gasping for air. She can't breathe. You put too much water in her mouth. She is like a baby bird. She opens her mouth when she wants to be fed. I don't know why she does it. She just does it. She's very hungry, but it's not dinner time yet. You got like an hour or two. So we're going to keep moving with the questions, but I'm going to put you in a little bath, all right? Yeah? You want to wave goodbye? Good job. Okay, this next question is again from Black Powder Selkie. And I'm sorry, Selkie, but I cannot feature the one-eyed chameleon. But I can feature a chameleon. We can put Guido down. He's going to take off. People say chameleons are slow. No, they're fast. Guido, for God's sakes, where are we going? Let's get to your question, though. But just so you know, Guido, what are you going to try to climb that and stay up there? That's all right. We'll adjust the camera so we can see you climbing the wall. The one-eyed chameleon is going to be in his own video to give you guys an update. But don't worry, Patreon, you'll get to see it first. Okay, with Guido just back there, looking at us even though his body was facing the wall. Isn't that just awesome? Let's put you up. Let's see where he goes. Just going to climb that. One man, alone. Just going to the top, huh? Going to go to the top of the light. Make it difficult. Make it difficult. Where did you go? Look, what are we doing back there? You don't want to be on camera? Look at how he's moving away from the camera. Guido, hi, we got you from Home Design. You stay there. Don't worry, you stay up there. I'll do the questions. What was your most taxing rescue, both physically and mentally? Did it ever make you question what you do, what keeps you going? Oh no. The most taxing rescue emotionally was rescuing that starved leopard gecko. Because I had to work hard to get her. I don't want to go into it all again, guys. You can watch that series. It's a 4-parter. She didn't make it, but I wanted her to make it so bad. I just felt it was just not fair. I slept all those 3 nights in the chair next to the tank I had set up for her. And I'd watch her move around, and she'd go into the humid hide, and she'd go on the heat mat, and then she would eat and she'd go to the bathroom. But I wanted her to come out of it so bad because I know she wanted to come out of it too. Did it make me question? No, it didn't make me question what I do. In fact, it made me more committed that, hey, I need to step up my game and make sure I can get these guys and get them taken care of. But it's hard. It's hard emotionally. And honestly, what has helped keep me going is YouTube and Patreon. You guys, this reptile family. Not the money, although the money from Patreon is nice because eventually, hopefully, it'll catch up to my electric bill and I can actually buy myself something nice because I haven't bought myself anything nice in years because I put all the money towards these guys and my bills and everything. But, you know, it's like I don't go out and buy... I'm at the store and I see things are on sale. And let's say there's something I would like, but then there's like a toy or a reptile hide that I know Simba would like or Guido would like. I make the decision to get the thing that they'll like because then inadvertently that will make me happy as well. But the support from the comments and the amount of subscribers and the number of likes and just the engaging back and forth with this community has just helped me been going so much. To see my subscribers asking me questions, talking to me, I respond to them, they respond to each other. It's like this community that's formed now. And again, guys, I did this because I didn't see videos like this really, and I had a lot of questions that I had to really dive for answers for and consult vets and other people in the reptile industry and not even online anywhere. So I was like, I better show what I'm doing and it can help educate, help answer questions, and at least make people more aware for what's going on and maybe which reptiles are easier or which reptiles are harder. It's different than when you watch another video where someone just has a perfectly healthy reptile and then tells you this is a great pet or this is a bad pet. But why? Show me what it looks like when it's a bad pet. And obviously you don't want to do that intentionally, but I have the ability to show you, hey, this is a reptile that's really hard to take care of, and look what happens when you take care of it incorrectly. This is what it turns into, like with the Colombian Tagu and its stuck shed. This is what it turns into. And now people can actually see that, not just read about it. So thanks for that. And I'm going to stay here and answer the next question from Claire, who doesn't care what I feature, so why not Guido? I might just leave Guido here for the remainder of the whole series, to be honest. But we'll just put the camera on someone else. What got you into reptiles? And then P.S. I love what you do with 3 exclamation marks, I must add. Well, thank you, Claire. Thank you so much. What got me into reptiles? I always thought they were cool. You know, think of it. Think of the look. They look like, some of them look like a dinosaur. That's awesome. But yet you can tame them down and pet them. I mean, so it's probably, you know, reptiles, crocodiles, alligators, monitor lizards. They're the closest thing you can have to a dinosaur as a pet. That's awesome. And then chameleons, look at their super long tongue and they're snatching and they're climbing and the way their hands, the front paws have 2 claws on the inside, and then the back claws is reversed, 3 on the outside, 2 on the inside, and the way they use their tail and the way they shoot their tongue, and then they change colors. I mean, it's almost like a video game type stuff, right? Like, and then you have that as a pet. That's awesome. That's just awesome. All right. Okay, next question. And guys, just so you know what's going on, there's a lot going on in between questions, because the reptile I take out for the question then gets a bath, and while they're bathing, then I clean their tank because they're out of it. So there's a lot going on. But this next question is from Nadia, the Wheezy Vet Tech. And Nadia actually wanted me to feature a hognose snake. There's a problem. I don't have a hognose snake. So Nadia, you'll have to forgive me, but making the channel debut, and who knows how many people will watch this video, it's 35 minutes, is a 3-year-old female red-tail boa. Here she is. And let's get into your question. And she's just a sweetheart, by the way. An absolute sweetheart. So Nadia, you ask, probably in a wheezy voice, which I'm probably not going to replicate. Is there a morph of hognose snakes you would not recommend? Are hognose snakes recommended for beginners? Okay, so let's kind of get into the snake thing, and we'll get into that because, again, I don't have a hognose snake. But I tell everyone this. If you want the number one best beginner snake is a ball python. The number one. They are just so friendly. They're easy to take care of. They get to a still always a single person handleable size, 3, maybe 4 feet. You know, the females will get larger. And Nadia, there's so many morphs that you can pick up all their colors. The only one I don't recommend is the spider, because how it has basically head shake because the genetic mutation is so rough. Right behind them is a corn snake, although I'm not a huge fan of corn snakes because they always stay, although they get long, they always stay thin, simple snake that always seems to be squirming and wanting to get away. And same thing with milk snakes and things like that. You want a snake that, you know, you can pick up and hold like this. Hognose snakes are also good too. You could put them in your beginner category if you're looking for a little bit larger. So the hognose and your ball python are right there. Super, I would say, you know, they're entry beginner level for the size. If you're looking for an entry level large snake, as she tries to go underneath the table, and now grab the side of the, look at this. What are we doing? As she wraps around the light fixture here. Amazing. All right, now that we've stopped her, if you want a beginner level larger snake, you get a red-tailed boa. And you can get a Colombian red-tailed boa. You can get a central boa. They don't get as long. And again, another way you can just keep in mind that, you know, a healthy one of these is you know, going to push 20 years old. But the other thing is, if you want to also help manage the size, as in with most snakes, the male will be significantly smaller than the female. So, and snakes you can sex quite easily because you can, when they're smaller, you can turn them over and you can invert the hemipene. And if something comes out, male. If nothing comes out, female. Great. There's other ways to tell too, but it just depends on your size. So in their categories, hognose snakes are fine, but I prefer the ball python for that type of size and the red-tailed boa for larger. And if you're going to go larger than that, normally it's going to be some type of python. You're going to probably look at the Burmese python in terms of friendliness. They're a little bit more friendly over a retic. But, because don't get me wrong, guys, like a green anaconda, great. But that's going to be a heavy water enclosure snake that gets big. You know, if you're looking at a snake now that's going to push 30 feet, you don't want to handle it by yourself. You want to have more than one person. The cost of eating is going to be huge. But you could always get a dwarf Burmese python, so they won't get as large, but they're still going to push, 15 feet. And it's just not a snake that you want to find its way around your neck on accident, and while trying to hold on, knocks you out, squeezes you, kills you, things like that. But I do like to, my perfect snake to me is the red-tailed boa, because you just get a male or a female depending on the size that you want. But if you want to keep it a little bit smaller, a little bit more passive, you get a ball python. Those are the two best snakes. So hopefully, I'm sorry I didn't have a hognose. Like I said, hognoses are still great. The morphs are not a huge deal. There's not a morph I say is bad. Just look at the look and see what you like the look of. But if you want unlimited morph selection and longevity and healthy, ball python, small, friendly. Everyone who's afraid of snakes ends up holding Nagini after all the parents, after the kids have held her, because she's so passive and she just sits there and curls up in your hand or around your arm. And then the more go-getters will come to the boa here. Guess who's back? Back again. Archimedes is back. And she's requested by Priscilla, who has a question. Are there any books you'd recommend for learning more about Beardies and how to care for them, set up proper habitats? If so, which ones? I can't recommend any book specifically, only because I didn't really read books specifically because they were so different. I just read a lot of care forums, you know, things like that, and for any reptile to figure it out, and that's, you know, bearded dragons are so simple. There's low humidity, correct temperature, something to rub their pores out on, something that's hard, a hammock, and a basking spot. Like, they're really super simple, so they're not crazy. But even with ones that are, I mean, I just read online. That's where, you know, I talk to friends, I talk to vets, I talk to other people who had reptiles for a long time, and that seems to be more in the moment information than a book that was written, you know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Because remember, bearded dragons, they thought you couldn't put them on loose substrate. And you can, but it just has to be more coarse. So there's all these new things that we're finding where maybe an older book would be bad. But just, you know, see what's out there, see what's new. There's a lot of stuff that's very, very informational online. Just search for it. You'll be able to find it easily. Okay, we're going to leave Archimedes out because this next one wants to see the one-eyed chameleon again. And I can't show him. I can't spoil the progress we've been doing. But it's from Nicole Cassels. Is probably how you say it. I doubt it's Castles. But sorry, Nicole. The one-eyed chameleon is not available for this Q&A video. But you are going to be able to name him. And I'll just say Cyclops is probably not going to fit anymore. Now, have you ever had any of your animals escape? I ask because one of my frogs escaped and my roommate fed them for me last week, and I can't find her anywhere. Frown face. Oh no. Quick update. I found her. She was under my dresser. I looked under there, so I don't know how I missed her, but I'm very happy she's home. Okay. So it's funny you should say that. Yes. In fact, I had my pixie frog, my first pixie frog, John Wesley, escaped while I was at work in December or January. I don't remember the month. Made his way to like the front door and froze into a solid mass of ice. Jumped out of the top of his tank. He was in a transition tank. Went to the coldest part of the house and froze. Literally, knock, 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 was solid. Warm watered, and he melted and he was back to life. I thought for sure he was dead. He was an ice cube. The pixie frog baby I have now has escaped before when I was soaking him. I didn't know that its height on its jump was so good already. So the tub I was using to give her baths in, she just bink. And I went and I looked on the kitchen table and it was empty. And outside on the kitchen table was a little splash of water where she had touched down. And then I was looking forever and then I couldn't find her. And I'm like, it's over, it's gone. And then I just saw her like an hour later hopping across the kitchen floor. So who knows where she was. I got her, I washed her, put her back in. And then Nagini, when I first got her, she escaped. And it was last winter. And again, went into a really cold spot. And luckily I found her underneath the couch in the reptile room. And I don't even remember how she escaped. I can't remember what tank. Oh yes, now I do. She was in like a fish tank that I had just set a screen lid on, and I did put a weight on it, a brick, but like in the middle, and she went all the way to the edge and she forced up the edge and she got out and she left, and then I had to stack 3 bricks on there after that, 1 in the middle and 2 on each end. And she was only in that tank for a month or 2, but yeah, it was very interesting. So a couple of escapes. Hey guys, sometimes they happen. You know, I'm just thankful that someone else didn't get eaten. Like while Nagini was out, she didn't go find a leopard gecko and eat them. So I've made mistakes in the past and I've gotten so much better, but you learn from them, right? So my mom one time was feeding Nagini and then she left her tank open, and then I pulled a prank. I removed Nagini from the tank and I said, we went over there and I said, where's Nagini? And my mom was like screaming, yelling, climbed up on the couch like that was going to prevent the snake from getting to her. But so it happens. You have to just double, triple check, etc. You got to do what you can do. So we're going to wrap it up. We got last 2 questions here. Neither of them feature a specific reptile, but I have a question here from Brody. And what is your favorite cute/funny thing you've seen one of your reptiles do? Well, Brody, I can't answer that on this video, but it has to do with Simba, and there is a video coming out for it, but since you're a Patreon member, you saw the teaser for that video, so you know what Simba does. And for everybody else, there's going to be a video on Simba, and he does a really cute thing while we play and interact every single time. And I don't see anything about it anywhere online, so stay tuned for that. And then the very last question is from Baka in the Ink Castle. And there's an upside down smiley face. And feature any reptile, which is fine. And this question is, amazingly, because it's the last question, has nothing to do with a reptile. It has to do with me. Is everything working out for you? As in, are you, all capitals, very good, doing well during this pandemic? You're so devoted to helping these small little friends, but if the bigger friend ends up feeling sick, I guess that's me, so I just want to hope you're doing well. Well, Baka in the Ink Castle, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. In fact, I see that on comments, people always ask how I'm doing, not just the reptile. Patreon people always message me. People always come up because they see I've got scratches or stuff. Like these are just from Guido. And he's just got sharp nails and he's just holding on. He's not even trying to scratch me. He's just holding on. So, reptiles, yeah, you can get injured. I get most of the time it's from long nails. In terms of the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm doing just fine. No one in my family has gotten it. I just keep doing what I do every day. I've been working. My work didn't have to lay me off. I was able to work from home during it, which has actually been a little bit better, to be honest, during the pandemic, because since I've been working from home, I've been able to get more stuff done around the house. I've been able to interact more with the reptiles, which is really great, while still working and making money to take care of them, which is even better. The one thing it did, is unfortunately it was here when the weather was warm, and then normally so many people would come over and we would interact with the reptiles outside and, or at the park, and that kind of stopped, unfortunately. Although I do still have people who pass by who are walking and they ask if they can come over and see Simba or things like that. Every time, people are more than welcome. Just respect the reptile. But that slowed down a little bit, so that's been a little bit boring. But otherwise, I'm doing great. I hope everyone is doing well for this. So, Patreon, that's it. That's all 3 pages of questions I had for round 1 of the Patreon Q&A. Like I said, we're going to probably try to do these every quarter, I hope. YouTube, I'll make a video asking you guys for questions as well, because we broke 50,000. And thank you so much for that. So, everybody, thank you for the support. I couldn't be doing this without all you guys. All you guys are my family, and I thank you so much. Thank you for liking my videos, commenting, subscribing. Hit that bell notification icon button. Take care. Inside.